Last week I said that you're an Arizonan when you get up in the morning and you look at the high temperature for the day and you say, well, and it's October, and you say, well, it's going to be below 100, it's going to be a nice day. And then today I got up, I went outside for whatever reason, I think around 6:30, and I'm like, hey, I'm kind of cold. You're an Arizonan when it's probably 65 and you're cold. Today in the gospel, we hear Jesus say these familiar words: give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. Very, very well-known saying of his. We see the ancient people of God in the first reading who were in exile, were in slavery, who had been taken out of their land, and some among them believed it was because they gave too much to Caesar and little or nothing to God, that they didn't follow the law. And the Pharisaic tradition arose out of the Babylonian exile. So King Cyrus is reported as anointed in this first reading, and he is not a Jew, but he's anointed. The God is saying that he's anointed because he had let the ancient Jews go home. So in the Babylonian exile, 500 or so BC, the Babylonians came in and conquered Judea. And they first put it under siege, and then they conquered it. And then those that they didn't kill, they took to Babylonia. And they destroyed the temple. And Babylon was south of Baghdad in Iraq. It's gone now, but that's where these folks lived. And they put these ancient peoples under the cruelty of slavery. And after 50 years, the neighboring king, King Cyrus, who was a Persian, now in what is called Iran, he attacked the Babylonians and defeated them. And in his clemency, he let the people go home. And he said, rebuild the temple. And so they went home. But they believed that because they didn't obey God, that they didn't give God what was God's, some of them, the Pharisees especially, when they arose from this reality, that they would strictly adhere to the law, to give to God what belongs to God. So in our gospel today, the Lord encounters both the Pharisees and the Herodians. And the Pharisees hated the occupying power of the time, the Romans. And the Herodians were fans of Herod, who was not a Jew. If you look in his history, he might have had a little smattering of the Jewish heritage, but he was propped up by the Roman Empire to be the so-called king of the Jews. So they were very much in support of the Roman occupying power. After the exile, when the Jews came home, later the Greeks came in there and took over, and then the Jews petitioned the Romans to help them, and they came in and took over. And that's where we are in the history, in the historical part of the gospel that we are listening to now. The Romans are in power. And the question comes to Jesus from these two groups of people that didn't like each other, that were enemies, but they found themselves united because they wanted to take Jesus out. And they come together, and the question is put to him: is it lawful to pay the census tax? And there were several taxes that they had to pay under the Romans. You had to pay the ground tax if you were a landowner, and all of your produce was taxed at a certain percentage depending upon what you grew or what you produced. Then there was an income tax like we have today. A certain percentage was taken from you as you earn money. And then this tax, the census tax, was the people that were taxed for this were women from age 14 to 65 14 to 65, and men 16 to 65. 1 denarius, 1 day's wage. Is it lawful to pay that tax? You think about taxes in our own day, you think, oh man, they had it tough under the Romans, and they did. But I was sitting up this morning and thinking, okay, how many taxes can I think of that we pay? State tax, federal tax, all these taxes that we pay here in the United States, and I came up with a list. We pay inheritance tax if you get more than such and such amount. You pay, I think, tax on gasoline. You pay state tax. You pay income tax. You pay property tax. You pay taxes on your vehicle for the registration. And mine just came a couple months ago, and it was the first year that I had to pay for it directly after I bought the vehicle. And you know, when that little slip comes in the mail, you just kind of hold on and you say, I don't know what it's going to be, but I know it's going to be a lot. And then why is it so much when you first get a vehicle, but then it tapers off the longer you own the vehicle? I don't get it. All these taxes, and then the 8 o'clock crowd, I asked for, hey, can you help me think of more taxes that we pay? And they're just hammering out all these other taxes. And yet, it is still not enough, because they say, oh, we can't balance the budget. We need more. And you're like, well, I have to kind of reconcile what I owe and what I make, but you need more. You're getting all of this and you need more. When I was first in the workplace, right? This is when the reality hits. When you go into the workplace and you start making a little bit of money, and you're like, I make, and my first job, $2.25 an hour. I make $2.25 an hour. Okay, I worked so many hours this week, I should get X amount. And then you get your paycheck and what we call, they don't even have these anymore, check stubs. Do they even have those anymore? Yes. I don't have. I know I have to go electronically to look at it. I'm not going to make the effort because I get depressed. You get the check stub and you're like, oh, here's what I made and here's what they took. A few years ago, 10 years ago, during one of these political times, one of the candidates that wanted to be elected was saying that, and I really would like to know who this person was and ask this person myself, and then check to see if this person is in fact sane. So he said he knew this guy. I don't know if he was a business owner or a wealthy man. I think he was wealthy nonetheless. And he goes to this possible official that wants to be elected and says, hey, you got to do something. I'm not paying enough taxes. What? I have never heard anyone ever say that. Nonetheless, they are paying the taxes, and they were taxed heavily. Is it lawful for someone to pay the census tax? They're trying to catch Jesus, because if he says yes, then the Pharisees are going to say, you are not one of us. You support the occupying power. And the Herodians, if he says no, they're going to say, you are a rebel. You should be put to death. He says to them the wisdom of Jesus. I was thinking about this over the last 2 days, wisdom versus intelligence. I had a conversation with someone recently, very bright person, very bright, a Gen Z person. But when we got into issues of morality, it's like, you're very bright, but you are not wise. Jesus is both. He says, hand me a coin. Now, he doesn't have one, obviously, because he's asking them to hand him a coin. Now, I don't know who handed him the coin, but I'm guessing maybe one of the Pharisees did. And see, that would be a contradiction, because the coin has an image of Caesar. And the Jews objected to images of these folks that prop themselves up as pseudo-gods. Nonetheless, someone hands him the coin with the image of Caesar. Whose image is this? And the reply is Caesar. Then give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what belongs to God. oftentimes we're very confused as to what to give to Caesar and what to give to God. See, it's very confusing sometimes in the Catholic world because we see a lot of stuff on TV. We see certain people saying certain things, a lot of times in contrast to church moral teaching, and we scratch our heads and what are we supposed to do here? Give to Caesar what belongs to him, and give to God what belongs to God. In the United States of America, I can think of 3 examples. There are many more, how we give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. You know, as my association with the Knights of Columbus, one of the things that the Knights say about themselves is a knight is a man of patriotism. He's patriotic. In a sense, he's a patriot. He loves and respects the United States of America because we are citizens of this country. Patriotism is giving to God what belongs to God. I have many friends who have served as patriots in the United States military. Father Ed Lucero, who's a pastor down in Tucson, a good friend, he served in the Army. Father Steve Kunkel, pastor of St. Thomas the Apostle in Phoenix, he served in the Army. Father Larry Murda, I don't remember which branch he served in, but he's the pastor of Holy Cross. And Father Greg Menegay, he served in the Army. You can be patriotic. You can serve the country. That is giving to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Patriotism. And then we'll get to those dreaded taxes. Taxes. This is part of what it is to be in this country. It's not pleasant. Now, what I do, because I don't understand the tax code and all of these other things that go along with it, and as a diocesan priest, in a big part, I'm responsible for my own retirement preparation. And I want to try to have a good retirement to where, I could probably live in a parish and serve, but I'd like to get out of the heat for at least 3 or 4 months in the summer when I get kind of old. I'd like to go up to Southwest Colorado or maybe Oregon for those months, and maybe, if my other priest friends retire, that we would travel, maybe go on personal pilgrimages. So we're trying to prepare for that. I'm trying to prepare for that. But when it comes to these savings and capital gains and all of these other things, those are taxed, I need help. So I pay somebody. Actually, he's a parishioner and he's wonderful. He knows all the rules. He gets me all the deductions. And he doesn't cheat. He doesn't fudge on anything. I have to live a life of honesty, as all Christians do. If we cheat on our taxes and we go to confession, maybe the priest told you this, maybe he didn't. He should have, but sometimes we hear a lot of sins and we don't remember everything that we need to tell you. You are guilty of theft. And when we're guilty of theft, regardless if it's taxes or something else, we owe restitution. That means you have to pay it back. That is different than penance. Restitution means you have to pay something back. So if I worked at a bank and I have a buddy and maybe he's down on his luck and he's working next to me and I keep passing him 50s every week to make his life a little better, and the Lord convicts me of that and I go to confession, I have to pay that back to its original owner. Or if I can't pay it back to the original owner because of embarrassment or what have you, I can take that money and give it to the poor. What if I've stolen so much that I could never pay it back? Do I just get a free ride? And the answer is no. So in that case, say you owned a trucking company and 1/3 of your trucks didn't make it to their destination, and they made it to Al Capone's destination, and then he took that and sold those goods. Then you would owe that restitution. You'd say, well, it's millions, Father, I can't pay it back. Well, the priest would say, okay, I want you to agree to a certain payment every month to maybe the poor, what have you, and you will pay that until the day you die. And you might say, well, that's cruel. Friends, when we have our exit interview, the accuser will be standing there. The accuser will be standing there telling God what you did. This guy stole millions and sent it down to the cartels in South America. And you want to have the Blessed Mother standing there saying, my son, he repented, and although he could not make full restitution, he made every effort. That's what you want to hear. Not just the accuser's voice, the Blessed Mother's voice. So taxes. We can't cheat on our taxes. And once we know that we owe restitution, if we've willfully done that, the temptation to do that again, especially when we started or have completed paying restitution, will be much less powerful. Patriotism, taxes. A third way that we can give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar is to be involved in the public square, to be involved in the election process of officials in the United States of America, local, and even city. We have to go in there with a well-formed conscience. As Catholics, we give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, but we do so as followers of Jesus Christ. So we need to know, and that booklet is out there, Catholics in the Public Square. We need to know the issues, the gravity of these moral issues, and the candidates, and there are many that we're going to be voting for, maybe we already have, in the next few weeks. We have to know that. And we have to ask ourselves, is this person committed to protecting human life from conception to natural end? Is this person committed to protecting the family, the individual unit of society that was spoken about so long ago in scriptures? Is he going to protect that, or is she going to protect that? We have to have a well-formed conscience. You know, some folks will use this word conscience as an out, and I've seen many Catholics, even Catholics who studied at major Catholic universities, use this to justify certain kinds of things that were immoral. Well, I followed my conscience. No. The Catholic Catechism of the Catholic Church says your conscience has to be well-formed, and that means it's informed by the truth. By the truth. So we look at not just personalities. I think, you know, in our younger days, maybe we're more immature and we're like, well, I like this person, but I don't like that person. When we are well-formed and when we've had a personal encounter with Jesus Christ, changes everything. Changes everything. And I don't know about you, but whenever I hear stuff, I ask myself, now what is the truth? Again, that person that I visited with recently that's very bright, but not very wise in many regards, was hammering me about a moral issue that we deal with often in the church. And she was hammering me as if I were going to cave into what she now believes. And the conversation wasn't about that, so I said, hey, we'll get back to that later. But I wanted to say, that's what you said. But what is the truth? That's what you think. What is the truth? And that has to be part of what we take to the public square. Patriotism, unfortunately paying taxes, and being active in the public square. Friends, this is how we give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar while remaining always a citizen of heaven.